goal is to bring you your next favorite band.
Thanks for having us. This is a very cool show.
Yeah, so through many iterations, and we finally landed on the weirdest one by far.
Yeah, simple of feelings, and boom, you got a sound.
Yeah.
I remember this one time. I had been writing some songs, and I went out. I'm just going right in on this story. I went out, and so I was.
The story's longer than the song itself. We'll go ahead and play it.
And listen, it's going to be everybody's favorite band. Welcome to your next favorite band. That's both the show title and our promise to you. We here at Stereophilia Studio are tireless in our pursuit of finding incredible, genre-defiant artists who are either a hot, up-and-coming band or a group that has been delivering for years but have flown under the radar. Tonight, we talk the riveting world of insurance with Laura Donelan of MusicPro Insurance. Each month, we will bring you live streams, audio podcasts, and perhaps even a live concert where you can listen to the stories and hear the music of artists personally curated by us based on what we feel will be worthy of your time. Be sure to subscribe and tune in to each episode because the possibilities are endless and you never know who will be your next favorite band. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Philip Reese.
Hello, and I am your co-host, David Moore.
And this is
your next favorite band.
And we are so excited. New backgrounds, new kind of season, as we call it. But anyway, we freshen things up at different points in the year. And
little renovation.
Keep it fresh and fun. And we're in festival season, so we went with our festival of Music Fest. But there's plenty others here starting in May and beyond.
Yeah, there's a few music festivals that are happening.
A couple. And pumped for that. It's such a nice thing. There was the recent announcement of what the Levitt stage is going to bring, not just here in Bethlehem, but they have several, I think. 10?
7, 6, something like that, stages throughout the United States.
Yeah, let's just go with that. But we'd love to know more about that organization. They do such a wonderful job here. And then when you follow them, you see they're doing just great things all over the country. It's wonderful.
It is pretty nifty.
Pretty nifty. Very cool thing I came across, having nothing to do with music, but I just thought it was fun. And so I have this wonderful graphic here that I thought was pretty cool. Most people familiar with The Simpsons, right, David?
I've heard of it.
I'll come on once or twice. And so I just thought this was fascinating. This is Matt Groening, the creator's family tree next to basically Bart Simpson's, and the amazing overlaps. He had a grandfather, Abraham, and so there was Abe Simpson. His parents were Homer and Margaret, and he had sisters, Lisa and Maggie. So nice, and even an aunt, Patty. So pretty interesting stuff there that he was just pulling right from his own little world there.
Well, it further backs up The Simpsons has already done that kind of logic that always seems to happen when one of those things happen, and then it's like, well, no, The Simpsons had that on an episode in 2017.
Right. Maybe he embraced the past so well that the future came out of him by
He's manifesting it all on his own.
That's right. He's right on the timeline. He's in the Keystone stream, if you will. And there was even his mother's maiden name was Wiggum, and there was Chief Wiggum too.
Oh.
So I'm sure there's more than just that he pulled from, because you don't just do this. But anyway, I just thought that was kind of fun.
It is fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. And other fun things like insurance.
Well, it's a practical thing.
I share this actually in all truth because it is my industry. It's over 23 years of my career now in the insurance industry, and I do find it to have a fascinating history. We're not going to get into that today, but I do find that it does have way more importance and practical application than people maybe generally realize. And so, especially for the music industry, we thought it was a very important thing to bring on. And we were able to meet our guest tonight and be able to see if she'd come on the show and talk about specifically what her the agency she kind of runs the program for, would be able to bring to musicians as far as information and then what they can benefit from with that info. So we have why don't you just share the bio, and there's a little clip of something I was going to share before bringing her on, but if you don't mind, David.
Sure. In 1999, MusicPro Agency was created as a joint venture with the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, better known as ASCAP, and was offered as an exclusive benefit to its members, but was later expanded to all music professionals, as well as hobbyists, collectors, students, and educators. And today they have over 10,000 active policyholders. The MusicPro program provides coverage for all types of instruments and recording, sound, and lighting equipment. Joining us today is Vice President and Program Manager Laura Donelan. Started her insurance career back in 1987 and has been with MusicPro for almost 20 years.
Wonderful. And here's a little quick tip, a quick video that's sharing tips of a different podcast. I thought it was pretty cool. So she was a guest on there, and it just kind of shows her commitment to trying to get the word out there. So I thought this was a cool thing to share.
Hey Mondo attendees, Nick Raffini here from Drummers Resource, and Drummers Resource is the #1 longest running drumming podcast in the world. And since 2013, we've been serving up in-depth interviews and great advice for not only drummers, but really musicians around the world. And today I'm talking to Laura Donelan of MusicPro Insurance about advice for musicians getting back out into the world of touring now in, I guess we're calling it now the post-pandemic era.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how we're getting together for this little chit chat today. I heard your podcast last month where you gave 5 really key pieces of advice for musicians that are going back out on the road, getting back into the studio, and just getting back to work.
Yeah.
So there is Drummer's Choice, Nick Raffini, shout out to them. And welcome to the show, Laura Donelan, MusicPro Insurance.
My hair looked awful in that video. I think I want to replace it with this one.
Well, we would love that. But thank you for joining us on the show. We thought that was a very cool thing, that obviously there was a musicians podcast that was sharing, and apparently he will share often like some business tips. And so in a previous episode, he had shared 5 key financial advice tips, and I'll just run down them quick here. One was to tuck away 30% of what you make in revenue for taxes so that it's there for that. Get an online accounting software so you can track all of those expenses and income and such. Get a separate operating bank account. The fourth one was read this book, All You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald Passman. And then the fifth one was get insurance on your gear. And so, again, there's that, a gigging, working musician who has a podcast, who obviously treats it like a business. And that was one of his top 5 tips. So I thought that was a great place for us to start here. But anything you would want to share about that experience, or anything, or kind of just that sentiment even?
Well, yeah, I think one of the big things with that podcast, or even just trying to get the message out, is a lot of people just don't even know that it exists. Sure. Insurance for your gear.
Yep.
And it does exist, and it's not as expensive as people might think. And, if you're a working musician, like, these are the tools of your trade, and something happens, you're out of a job.
Yeah, it's quite the disruptor. It's come up many a time on our interviews where people would be sharing we try and have them tell their story arc of, like, where did they start as a kid, who were their kind of inspirations for things, and what are some cool stories from the road. And a lot of times there'll be this moment where, like, oh, there was this tour and, the van got stolen, or people broke into the van and took all of our guitars or keyboards or whatever. And they had to either do GoFundMe or just reach out to, like, just friends and family to basically either get them home or to keep gigging, like, to basically not lose out on that revenue stream.
Loans and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And it even happened to famous people too. Like, I know it happened to Anton. I mean, it's not going to be the only instance, but just recently, Anton Newcomb from Brian Jonestown Massacre had one of his, like, oldest guitars stolen out of his car while they were in the hotel. And someone of his stature can go to, like, the local police, and people got involved, and he got it back. But that type of, celebrity isn't in everyone's back pocket, and so most people are just stuck going to the local pawn shops or hitting Craigslist to see if they can purchase the thing back from the person who stole it. So yeah, it just does seem to be a very vital part of it. It's such a frustratingly annoying part of touring that people would be that terrible to go and break into someone's van to steal their music equipment. But at the same point, it's more than just the stolen parts as well. If you don't mind, maybe quickly run down some of the other quick elements, because we'll bring up the site in a minute to kind of get into some of the details that are available there, because it's full of that kind of info. But it's also going to cover things like damage from dropping or water damage or that kind of stuff. So if you don't mind, maybe quickly touch on some of that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously theft is probably the biggest thing that we see coming across claims desks. And yeah, that could be vans and trailers go missing. That could be you're loading and unloading and someone just walks off with somebody else's black case. You know, stuff like that happens. But yeah, accidental breakage is also a very frequent claim that we see. And any type of accidental breakage is usually covered. And again, it's, you know, people wouldn't even think of this. When you think of an insurance claim, you think of theft or fire or a hurricane or something. But I've had people like, oops, I dropped it. I accidentally ran over it in the driveway. My dog knocked over my guitar and the neck broke. Someone spilled beer on a pedal board at a gig, like all kinds of stuff. And
that one doesn't surprise me. That's not your most frequent claim at that point in time.
It does stand in my head. It was one of the first claims I ever got.
And they gotta love the honesty too. It wasn't like, oh, you know, someone threw it at me. It was, nope, I knocked it over.
Yeah.
It was probably somebody else in the band. Let's blame somebody else. Lead singer was doing his thing.
Yes, there you go.
Knocked it over.
But yeah, no, I appreciate that. And maybe if you don't mind, we love telling the personal stories. Maybe before we get into MusicPro Insurance and their site, tell us a little bit about more yourself and like your involvement in this this portion of kind of music supportive insurance industry.
Yeah, I mean, I guess technically I started, you know, like it said in the bio, 1987. I was like, you know, part-time after school, you know, when I was in high school, doing filing and mail back when we had files. And then I just kind of like stuck with insurance. I started working for Sterling. As you said, also that, you know, MusicPro is a joint venture between Sterling Risk and ASCAP. I started working for Sterling in 1994. And at the time, they had a very small program that was exclusive for members of the local 802, the Musicians Union here in New York.
Got it. Okay.
It was a tiny, tiny program. Nobody in the office wanted to handle it because it was like, it wasn't making money. It was, you know, different, whatever. And I was like, I'll handle that. That sounds like fun.
Sure.
And Phil, I mean, like, you're in insurance, so you know, like, I can honestly say if I had not been doing MusicPro all these years, I don't think I would still be in the business.
Right.
You know, it's like you go to a cocktail party and people are like, oh, so what do you do? And you're like, insurance. And they kind of...
Yes, there's always that. Yeah. Or there's this very quick, oh, I have this claim that keeps getting denied. But it's a medical claim, you know, it's like health insurance, and it's like, well, no, that's not what anyway, it is
now if I say, oh, I do property insurance for musicians, people are like, oh, that's really cool. I'm like, yeah it is really cool.
It's very cool. It's a wonderful thing. And let's dive into it, because I would say people who listen, we definitely have musicians who tune in, or at least, again, people who are lovers of live music, and with that, you know, they may have a friend who is a musician, and they'd be able to move this on to them as information. So I will bring up the MusicPro Insurance website for us to have on the screen, but keeping in mind some people are listening only audio, so we will want to kind of chat out loud about what we're looking at here. Starting with the About page, this is a lot of that bio information, but it is important to kind of check it out, because one thing you can see here is a very impressive 10,000 professionals that you're insuring through this program. And so that, I think, is something to know. And I think the other thing that somewhat is misunderstood about insurance is this thought that, oh, they're just going to take my money and find ways to, you know, they're going to overcharge me and not give me enough coverage and so on and so forth. But one of the things here is to keep in mind is the more people that buy, the more affordable the coverage can get, because the more that I don't want to get too nerdy about the terminology, but like the risk transfer is more expensive if only the people who are buying it are the ones that are most at risk. If you spread that out across more people, then there's the two things that happen are you have more kind of smoothing out of those highs and lows, but also more data into the system for people to understand the true risk of any one kind of application. So anyway, too much time on that from my part.
Call it group purchasing power.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So the more people that do it, the better off it is. But Laura, anything you want to share about that?
No, I think you pretty much summed it up. And, like I said, group purchasing power is a quicker way of saying all that.
Yeah. And I guess you touched on it a little bit, but it's talking here about that the rates are pretty low, lower than people may realize. So at a minimum, they probably should come here and try to fill out the application and see what it would cost for them to cover their gear.
Well, there is a little quick quote widget on the homepage where you can play around with numbers and get estimates. The minimum premium's $175 a year. You can get around $12,000-$13,000 worth of coverage for that $175.
Mm-hmm. And this is what you're talking about here, this estimated replacement value. Yeah.
Right.
So I see a note there that also says standard and classical. I think that's worth noting is you don't just cover, we're really talking about this. We've talked about this sort of in the context of the touring rock band, but obviously you're covering more than that. Obviously classical is listed here for, you list examples of orchestras and composers and whatnot.
So is that covering the full orchestra, everyone in it, or is that still for individuals?
It's mostly individuals. I do have some orchestras and symphonies, but it's mostly individuals.
Got it. So someone would come here and pick standard or classical. What would be the biggest differentiator for them?
It's really the pricing. This classical is a lot cheaper. I guess they feel like the protection and security of the instrument is a lot better if it's someone that's just playing in an orchestra or a symphony as opposed to bands on the road.
Got it.
Less beer in the orchestra pit as well too.
Yeah. And like David was touching on there, it's not just the instrument. You're also covering the
equipment.
Any kind of recording equipment, sound and lighting equipment, camera and video equipment, computer hardware.
So all the stuff a touring musician and their crew would take on the road, even
pretty much, yeah. I mean, pretty much anything that someone's using in their work as a musician, I can cover. I can't do personal items. I've had people put like golf clubs and prescription sunglasses on their list.
You have not seen some of the bands we have heard.
It's a little outside of the box.
And this is what you were just touching on. This page is the coverage details. Any type of instrument, recording equipment, sound and lighting equipment, computer hardware and software, miscellaneous accessories, cables, cases, stands, and that kind of stuff. And then this quickly touches on fire, vandalism, theft, accidental breakage, water, flood damage, earthquake. And then automatically providing some extra coverages here. The deductible is an interesting one. So deductible, again, to quickly touch on that, that's when you have a claim, how much are you going to be responsible to pay?
Right. They just subtract that from whatever the total settlement comes out to.
Yeah. And so with that, the important thing here is some coverage they could buy elsewhere, the deductible would be applicable per item, whereas you're only doing it per loss.
Right.
That's
and
huge.
It's only $100.
Yeah. So in the case of, the examples here where someone just unhitches the trailer and takes all of the guitars, drum set, all that stuff, it's still only $100 for that one claim, that one loss.
Yep.
Versus another type of insurance from somewhere else might be saying each one of those items would trigger that deductible. So even if it is $100, but there was, 10 items in there, you're talking about $1,000.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Hurricane Sandy. I had a client. His loss was like close to $250,000, and it was still just a $100 deductible.
Right, that's very impressive. Let's go into the frequently asked questions, because this is often a very important area, because these are either questions that are already on some people's minds that they're saying, boy, I wish I could call in, or it's ones they'll think of 2 days from now, or they should be thinking about. So anyway, I think one of the first ones I would think is, isn't this already covered by my homeowner's insurance? And that's not the case.
It's very unlikely that I mean, first off, if you're a professional musician generating even the smallest amount of income, even if it's not your primary job, if it's just a side gig, it's just an easy out for an insurance company to be like, no, it's business equipment. It's not covered on your contents, on your personal contents.
Right.
It's very likely they would not cover it if it leaves the house.
Sure.
They probably wouldn't cover accidental breakage. It would be like named perils like fire, theft.
Yeah.
They might have limits per item. You know, I think I've heard of some policies where
Sure.
they might cover a guitar, but only up to $1,500.
Yeah, and I think another one important there is this is an all risk policy. Like I think you have that somewhere in here.
Yeah.
And so I think with that, it's important to point that out that again, there are kind of two different styles of policy. One that is the named perils, like you just talked about, where it'll only cover it if it's certain things like fire, vandalism, and so on. The all risk one that you're providing is the one that's really covering them for anything that were to happen except for what's excluded. So
Right.
it's more of that, would you rather getting coverage for what's specifically named or for anything that's not unnamed, if you will?
And also, like, you know, your homeowner's company or agent, like, they don't know the kind of stuff you have.
Right.
They don't know, you know, the difference between a vocal mic and a condenser mic. And
Yeah.
they don't know how to pronounce Moog. Like,
Right.
Your Moog synthesizer, and you're like, oh, this is not going to go well.
Yeah,
yeah,
this
just
is
like my Newman microphone.
But I do think the biggest one there for me, as I was kind of thinking it through, was on the off chance your equipment was in your house and you know there was a loss. Again, maybe there was a flood or a small fire or whatever. There's a chance, I guess, it could be there. But I'm with you. Like once they learn that it was for business purposes and raising funds, that most likely we get there. But the bigger thing is if it were to happen out of the home, which is going to be most likely the case. Actually, you live in Nashville, but the loss happened while you were gigging in Arizona. That homeowner's policy is definitely not going to kick in for that
Right.
one.
Yeah.
I think that was the one that really crossed my mind was it ain't going to follow you for sure, and it most likely wouldn't even cover you in your own home.
Right. And, you know, also if something happens, like you don't want to be getting into an argument with your insurance company about stuff.
No, you want this stuff just handled.
Mm-hmm.
And let me see what else is in here. This is a good one. This rent or borrow. So like in that instance of something happened to it, and obviously the funds don't get to you, like you have a gig that evening or tomorrow, you have to rent or borrow something to get you through that time. That's also a coverage.
There's two different types of rented gear coverage. The big one that most people need or use, it's just flat out, if you borrow or rent gear for any reason, there's some automatic coverage up to $25,000 for the first 30 days. So that could be like, I don't feel like bringing my lighting equipment on the road with me. I'm just going to rent something wherever I'm going. So people use that a lot. There's also rental reimbursement. That's $2,500 a day with a max of $25,000. But that's only if something's been damaged and you have to rent something while you're waiting to get it back. If it's a total loss, like a theft, they figure they don't pay for rental reimbursement for a theft because they figure just go repurchase it knowing that a claim check is coming.
Got it. Yeah.
The rental one is interesting because there's a lot of bands that will rent what we've talked to some people that do what's called backline support, and they'll rent that gear for the road because they need bigger or stronger PAs for the road work they're doing versus the rehearsal space or the clubs they're playing in that might provide their own PA.
Definitely. This is all. I think it's great stuff, and I encourage people, musicians and such, who are interested to either call the number to talk to you about it, and you're the person that's going to answer the phone. That's the other part here too. Is like you're the not only the face of it here, but
I'm the human on the other end of the website. I mean, the website is everything's done on the website as far as applying and policy documents and whatnot. Everything's done on the site. It's very automated. But yeah, I'm the human on the other end of the website. Anyone has any questions, any issues with the site, that's what I'm there for. And, some people just want to talk to someone. A lot of people are fine with just doing everything on the site and I never hear from them, but a lot of people just want to talk to someone and just get the warm and fuzzies. And that's part of my job.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. And I think one other one that I thought was funny there that, to the insurance ears, it doesn't sound weird, but I'm sure to the rest of the world it does, is that this will be a commercial inland marine policy.
Yeah, can someone explain what that is to me? Because I read that and I'm like, that is definitely speak that I don't have. Like,
No, a lot of people are like, I don't have a boat. What the heck are you selling me here?
Right. Am I using inland waterways to transport my music instruments? Like,
the commercial inland marine or any inland marine policy form, that's just the wording, the type of form used by the insurance industry so we can get the in-transit worldwide coverage. It was originally created as an offshoot from ocean cargo or ocean marine. So like ocean marine policy would cover it while it was being shipped, and then the inland marine would cover the property from the docks to its final destination. So,
and you're right, David. It probably stemmed from that transfer again, like Laura was talking about. Is it goes from the ocean to the inland marine? It might have been because it was using inland waterways.
It was probably using a lot of river transport,
rivers, and and then very quickly, obviously, it becomes more stuff that's on trucks or rails,
right?
But
at that point, they should have changed the name because it's no longer marine, but the insurance industry is loath to change things, so they just said
they use those forms for any type of property, really. So
right. So I thought that was an important one to touch on, and here is a musician having that same reaction of going, that doesn't make any sense to me. But yes,
I have to put a life vest on my bass. Is that what you're saying?
So one last thing, we'll bounce back over to the site here for a second. Is a claim. So like, should it happen, they have a policy with you. Let's just touch on that real quick. They would be able to do it either straight here with the phone or email address, or if they just simply want to, if they have one that's currently pending, they can find out the status of it. It's all with Hanover Insurance.
There's also a fax number in case you're got a super really well equipped touring bus.
Do people fax anything anymore?
No, I think that's not really happening much anymore, but who knows? Maybe there might be some things that are still insisting upon that. But yeah, so this is the page to come to for claims activity, because it's going to happen to someone each year. And so
again, people just call me up that, just
right.
Because I'm the only thing they know for MusicPro, and they call me up like, this happened, what do I do? And just give them that info.
Yeah. So you can go to the contact us page, fill out the message section, or there is the phone number, 1-800-MUSIC-PRO. Great get by that. Whoever got that number. Yeah.
All that comes to me, whether it's the contact us thing or phone calls, everything goes to me.
Yeah. And I think something else you had shared was knowing that your clients, the policyholders of your kind of program here, aren't really 9-to-5ers. You don't really view your kind of commitment to be 9 to 5 Monday through Friday only. You're pretty accessible.
I mean, I might not be answering the phone on the weekends, but I definitely, check the site weekends, holidays. I work from home all these years, so it's been a lot easier for me. Not only are my clients not 9 to 5 Monday to Friday people, they're all over the country in different time zones. So if someone from California is calling me at 7:00 at night, and what am I doing? I'm making dinner. I'll pick up the phone, or I'll answer an email, whatever. And, a lot of times people get the insurance right before they go on the road. Like, I've had people calling me from the airport waiting to board a flight to push through an application. Like, that's all good. I'm fine with that.
Right. I think that. Go ahead, David.
I was just going to ask on the note of claims. What, we mentioned the beer getting spilled on a pedalboard. What is, if you can share this, one of the most or some of the most unusual items that you've had claims against? Like somebody had X happen to something Y, and you would never guess that it was like this instrument or this circumstance.
I don't know. I can't really think of too many oddball instruments. I mean,
I didn't know if you had a cat attacked a bagpipes or something like that. And,
No, actually, I did have a client whose pet bunny was gnawing on his cables. And awesome. There is an exclusion for damage caused by rodents, vermin, stuff like that. But we did determine that a bunny rabbit is a mammal. So we were able to cover that.
Yay, science.
Yay, Google.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I mentioned like, beer on the pedal board, my dog knocked over my guitar. Geez, I can't think of anything else really. But again, those are all things that you wouldn't think would be covered on a homeowner's policy.
Certainly, absolutely true. And so, again, highly encourage people to check this out and look at how much it would be to cover your gear, especially if you're a gigging musician. But anybody can, because you also had a studio coverage where it was slightly different type of coverage that you would provide, where if it's a recording studio or a place where they record.
Well, I listed hobbyist as, even in my initial, read down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, that goes back to homeowners might have a cap per item. I have some people that are collectors and hobbyists that, they have guitars that are worth upwards of $25,000.
Sure.
Like one guitar, $50,000. So I would rather go with a specialty company than think that my homeowner's carrier is going to take care of something like that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whether it's musical instruments that are high value or jewelry or art, like there are things where you want that stuff specifically covered for the value that it is. You definitely want to go and get a specialized policy for that.
Right.
Fun name too, floater. So a lot of things in the insurance industry named weird, but do great things. So
I did remember one claim where this guy's daughter and her friend were playing with one of his mics, and the girl literally did a mic drop and the mic broke. And yeah, he was like, I don't like that kid.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Laura. Anything else here at the close you would want to either promote specifically or just simply come to the site or make the phone call and kind of test things out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously check out the site. There's plenty of info on there that we kind of went over. The application's all set up on the site. I love to have my phone ringing off the hook. So, call me too. Like I said, everything goes to me, whether it's emails or phone calls. So,
yeah. Well, we touched on in the opening that it's festival season. And I think for some people, they might have waited last summer to not hit the road just yet or not do it quite as aggressively. But it feels like things are now, fully open and able to be enjoyed, especially if you're outdoors. So more gigging going on than prior 2, 3, 4 years. So I guess you probably have the potential for way more clients than ever before. So definitely people check out MusicPro Insurance and have a chat with Laura Donelan. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Laura.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. David.
Philip.
I think it delivered the riveting, as I shared in the beginning, world of insurance.
Well, it's one of those things that as a person with things of value, you have to think about, it's one of those falls into the category of, I guess this is being an adult.
Right.
I mean,
no, you're right.
It's
you're
that thing where you have to protect the things that you have. And how do you do that? Well, insurance.
And I also think there's an element to what we were sharing from that podcast in the opening, where it's treating this like a business. So if you're treating it like a business where you're tracking your taxes, you're tracking your expenses, and having a bank account specific for that, this is another element of that. Is a business needs to take care of these things, and it's not a fun purchase. It's not like where it is it's the rainy day coverage. If that bad moment happens, this is what's something to help you work through that in a way that gets you made whole is usually probably the best way to look at it, and gets you back to where you were before.
Right.
And in the absence of that, you have to try and figure that out on your own. And if like Laura said, if that's now you're out of business, that's a very difficult spot to be in.
Correct. Your livelihood is just cut right off at the knees.
Absolutely. So thank you again to Laura. Hopefully people will check out MusicPro Insurance or just kind of call up 1-800-MusicPro Insurance. It's a very cool phone number that they were able to get there. But we would just like to thank Laura for coming on the show today and sharing her kind of information regarding her backstory, MusicPro Insurance backstory, and how to go get a quote, what coverages would be included. All those different elements to what it takes to be able to become a client of theirs and have the protection that they provide. We'll have links in the show notes to the site and to the various different elements of that. We always want to help you find your next favorite band. Today we hoped that we were bringing you some good content around music adjacent information that is hopefully helpful and also interesting. If you were tuning in today because MusicPro Insurance and or Laura Donelan, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you might consider subscribe, follow us, and be able to get some of that other content, whether it is your next favorite band of a musician that we bring on the show or some other adjacent content that it would be kind of either helpful or interesting. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up here now in festival season. A lot of great guests that were already scheduled and new ones that are being coordinated because of the information we found about them hitting the road this summer. So if you would like to, recommend somebody for our next favorite band, or you want to come on the show because you're a musician or an organization that helps support the industry, reach out. You can either visit nextfaveband.com. There's the QR code up in the corner there. Thank you, David. You can use that, or just type in nextfaveband.com or search Next Fave Band. It should be out there, whether it's the website or the social media. You can hit us up that way. And let us know. Give us your ideas. We love hearing that, and we also love hearing feedback. So if you have any information for us on things you'd like to see and hear, and either different or things you're liking, let us know. If you get the chance and you can give us a review out on either the podcast portals or different, the like button on YouTube, whatever, that definitely helps us out a ton. So anything like that would be helpful as well. But again, same along with the feedback and so on. But hope we can catch a live show together soon.